All right, so the first, I thought it would be easier just to make a video of some of the out-of-the-box cues that we were doing for this drill. So the first one I'd like to explain to a lot of the participants in the center is my very favorite cue of all CrossFit cues that I stole from Coach Mike Bergener. And I tell them that Coach Bergener tells us to stretch our string. Our string is an imaginary string between our belly button and our sternum. And he tells us if we stretch the string, it looks like we have a lumbar curve, and if we shorten it, well, we look like a Halloween cat. So it comes in real handy for like the air squat, where Abby shows us an air squat, and she's got that bad lumbar curve. We tell her to stretch her string, and now her lumbar curve looks better. Or for the deadlift, she gets in that deadlift setup position. She's got that rounded out back. Tell her to stretch her string, and then the back looks better. All right, so the next one, obviously you can't do this in the center with individuals because there's clipboards on the ground. But I'd just like to explain to them that I've seen this been fixed before this way. And that is that if they're going to do if we've got somebody toesy, like in the air squat or in the deadlift setup, and we'll just put a clipboard underneath of their heels and tell them to keep the clipboard down without me pulling on the clipboard to yank it out. So if Abby puts her heels on the clipboard, but now she's going to show us an air squat, and she's just going to be a little bit in her toes. And I'll just tell Abby, hey, keep the clipboard down, Abby, and I'll give her a little bit of resistance on the clipboard. Same thing with the deadlift. She grabs the stick, she's a little bit toesy, and now I say keep the clipboard down, and she shifts back into her heels, and now the clipboard doesn't come out. So like I said, I just like to explain that because obviously I'm not going to have clipboards with jump ropes attached to them. But usually it's a good little aha moment for the participant. So a lot of times I'll believe that a lot of times people aren't getting to full depth, not because they can't go lower, but because their pelvis is too congested with their femur angle not being at the right angle. So I'll tell them to send their knees out from the beginning. And what that'll do is they send their knees out in the beginning, that'll set that angle right for their acetabellum to go through their pelvis, and they can sit all the way down. Rather than, a lot of times their knees are going forward, we tell them to go deeper, but they can't because there's not enough room. So just that, the cue being knees out immediately to get somebody to go low enough in that air squat. One of the cues I'll give people because their knees aren't tracking their toes is I'll tell them, I'll see a lot of times that people's knees aren't tracking their toes because they're sitting on the inside of their foot. So I like to tell them to sit on the outside of their foot, almost as if they were going to roll their ankle, but I just don't want them to show daylight under their inside of their foot. So I'll sit the athlete down, tell them to roll their ankle, and a lot of times that lets them to push their knees out a little bit harder, and it's a little bit of another one of those outside the box cues. Just roll your ankle, but don't show daylight under the inside of your foot to get them to push those knees out harder. So for the Vulcan grip, a lot of times in the front rack position for the front squat, I'll tell the athlete to, I want that bar to sit on their finger pads as if they were getting fingerprinted by a police officer. So now Abby's obviously got the Vulcan grip, she rolls this back into her finger pads, and now that allows those elbows to go up. So just the cue of where to place the bar on the finger pads is where I find a good place to go. And then the other fault of not being able to keep the elbows up in the squat, go ahead and go to your squat, is since I've already, I'm sorry, come on now. So just like that stretch the string cue I gave earlier between here, now I just changed the location of that string. Instead of the string being sternum and belly button, now the string is on the elbow and the hip. So the elbow's going up as the hip goes back. Stretch the string. Same idea to keep those elbows up during the front squat. All right, so that inactive overhead position for the overhead squat. I find what I'll tell the athlete to do, I like this, I'll tell them, pretend you have eyeballs on the bottom of your elbows. And I want those eyeballs to look at the ground. So now Abby rotates her elbows towards the bottom, and now that the eyeballs are looking at the ground, now I want her to drive up on the bar. That's one of the outside the box cues. Take those eyeballs, rotate them down so they're looking at the bottom that I like to use for the inactive overhead squat position. So this next one, I've got to have a bar staged nearby for this to work in the group, but it's for early pressing of the arms in the push press. So Abby goes to her push press position, and now she's pressing early. She's dip driving and pressing at the same time. So what I'm going to cue her to do is, Abby, all I want you to do is to dip drive and get your head out of the way, and that bar is going to heave off your chest, but don't press it. So just dip drive, get your head out of the way, and let it heave. Go ahead and do that once. Good. And now when you feel it reach that apex, like it's no longer going up, it hasn't started coming down yet, it's just floating there. That is when I want you to start that press. So go ahead and show us one more time, but don't press until it hits that apex. Go ahead. Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks. This is one of my favorite out-of-the-box cues that I like to use, and I stole it from an Instagram post that Jenny Orr made about maybe over a year ago now. But it's for pulling early with the arms in the sumo deadlift high pull. And I'm going to bring Abby out for it again. Abby, come on out here. What I'll have Abby do is she's going to stand over this bell, and she's going to face the camera, stand over the bell. She's going to do a sumo deadlift high pull, but I'm going to box her in at where she should be when the elbows bend. So this is full hip extension. Her elbows shouldn't bend until she reaches this spot. So go ahead and grab onto the bell. And when you're ready to do a sumo deadlift high pull, yeah. But that kind of eliminates, otherwise if they pull early, they'll hit the bell or they'll hit the sticks with their arms. So that's one that I like to use for the early arm pull. So the next one, it's a phrase that I like to give athletes in the circle. And it's about the improper bar path. And it could be from the shoulder press, like the bar going around the head, or it could be in the deadlift, the bar going around the knees, or an incorrect deadlift return. And I'll just have Abby demonstrate it from the shoulder press position, so the bar is arcing out around her face. And I like to just tell her, Abby, the rule of weightlifting is to always move the body around the bar, never move the bar around the body. So what's in the way, Abby? And obviously she tells me your head's in the way. So that's right, so get your head out of the way so you can move the body around the bar. Go ahead and show me a good shoulder press. Yeah. Same thing with the deadlift. She goes down to the deadlift. Maybe she's got that, maybe she's going around the knees on the stand. Go ahead and show us that fall. She's going around the knees, so now I tell her move the body around the bar, press those knees back, because that's what's in the way. Get the knees out of the way and then stand. Yeah. So now she fixes, it's kind of a clever little saying, and I like to throw it out there for the participants. For some reason, this one makes a lot of the participants giggle, and it's collapsing low in that medicine ball clean. They catch the ball in the medicine ball clean, and they're just lazy down there. And I just bring up, hey, I don't want you to look like you're in a magazine of National Geographic here. I don't want you to look like you can smoke cigarettes down here, you can eat food down here. I want you to be a little bit active and come up a little bit so you don't look so lazy and National Geographic-esque while you're down there. And that cue seems to, it's a little bit of entertainment because it's funny, and they seem to get it. Receiving in the power position for the medicine ball clean. And I like to explain to people that after they get that ball up to its apex, they've accelerated it through their hip, they've put a shrug on that ball, and it's weightless up there, it's at the apex. I want them to use their hip flexors to pull themselves down. And I compare it to like a bathroom emergency. If they were in a sprint to go to the bathroom, they wouldn't sit down on the toilet and just fall down to the toilet. They would use their hip flexors to pull themselves down to the toilet. So I can get them to pull their pelvis down to catch that medicine ball clean, rather than just kind of falling down and catching it on the way, to try to begin to engage that third.